Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Cheltenham Raw, brought to you by oddschecker and PricedUp. This is a show where we look ahead to the Cheltenham Festival, just a month or so away now, and looking at the runners and riders, going through each race individually over the course of the series and previewing them in depth with the help of our sponsors PricedUp, using their boosts and their prices too. I'm your host, George Elek, delighted to be joined as ever by Oddschecker's racing tipster Andy Holding, and a newish addition to the Oddschecker stable as well. It feels a bit rude to call you Ginger Joe when I don't really know you, but that's your name.
No, it's fine. Thanks for having me, George. Thanks for having me, Andy. Most people know me by Ginger Joe, and I'm quite happy to roll with it, to be honest with you.
Perfect. Well, Joe, for those who don't know you or haven't seen your stuff or don't know much about you, if you could give us a brief intro as to your story, your tipping background, what your general strategy is when you're looking to put stuff up.
Sure. I mean, I'm Cheltenham born and bred, so it was always going to be hard for me not to be involved in racing to some extent. I sort of got into racing around what I call the golden years with Rooster Booster, Best Mate, some real good ages of horse racing. Long story short, when I left school, I ended up playing golf professionally on a few tours for 5 or 6 years. And then when that took a backseat, I decided to take a full step into the racing world, and I've just been trying to grow my brand. And look, I'm very, very excited to be part of oddschecker. Very grateful for the opportunity. And jumps racing, flat racing, I like it all, to be honest with you, from the pedigree side of things to anti-post punting at Cheltenham. I just love it all, George. I really, really am passionate about the sport.
What's your general, how do you tip? Andy, for example, has his speed figures, which makes a big part of how he does it. Are you an eye test man? Are you a data guy?
I'm not a data guy as such, but the eye test is definitely something I like to take a little bit of pride in, to possibly find an angle that's not so obvious. But my ultimate aim is to simply try and build profit over the season. Essentially, that's what I'm here for. I'd like to make a little bit of money out of the game, as well as enjoying it, of course, during the course of the season. So I will punt anywhere where I see an opportunity on the sportsbook or the exchanges. And so far, so good, George. But let's hope it continues, because we've got Cheltenham only just around the corner now.
We do.
Do you mind me asking
How's
you
the golf?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you still play off? Presume you still play off scratch, don't you?
Yeah, I turned pro off +4. So it's quite handy for quite a few years. But just because I played off +4, it's often about limiting the bad, making your bad stuff better. A good shot's always going to be a good shot. It's about making the bad stuff better, and those that can do that more consistently over 4 rounds effectively are the ones that are going to make it long term. And I didn't quite make it there, should we say? But I was grateful to have that opportunity. It's something I'll never forget, that's for sure.
Unbelievable. Two things I'm very bad at is making my bad shots not so bad, and holding putts. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time, Joe. Let's get into the preview. And as I say, this show is sponsored by PricedUp. If you haven't got a PricedUp account yet, make sure you go and get one. There's a link in the description below. They're a good new firm, laying decent bets. There's a trader chat in there, so you can kind of query certain prices or have a chat with the guys if you're wondering to, if you want a bit of a more personal touch to the service. And they're boosting loads across sports every single day. And ahead of the Cheltenham Festival, there's loads up there too, consistently boosting Andy selections, the lunatics. Not something you want to be doing, I would say, but certainly make sure you go and check out PricedUp. They're looking after the viewers of this show very, very well indeed. Before we get into the racing, this is the show where we're going to be looking at the 2 novice chases, the Brown Advisory and the Arkle. Obviously, the what was the Turners is no longer, so just the 2 of them. But we'll also lump on the end of this the Mares Novice as well, because we only had time for 3 races last week, so we'll do the Mares Novice here too. So 2 novice chases, 1 novice hurdle in the Mares Novice to come in this preview. But before we get to that, Andy, anything since we last spoke a week or so ago that the people should add to their Cheltenham notebook? We had some racing last weekend, and then a few bits and bobs that's happened over the last couple of days. Anything flagged up in your peripheral vision?
I was just trying to remember last weekend. Anything else? Not really. No, I don't think we had too many changes on the landscape, did we? Particularly in the novice hurdles. I suppose we had certain form lines boosted via proxy, didn't we? Via other horses. I was quite impressed with. Think of Henderson's that won the. I think was it the Sydney Banks, Calafet en Vaux. He beat Jax Jr. and one of Ben Paulin's, which I think might end up at Cheltenham in maybe the Martin Pipe if they can get it handicapped. I think it needs one more run for a handicap. But yeah, I don't think he goes to Cheltenham, Calafay and Vaux, but
goes to Aintree.
Yeah,
well,
he's
the plan.
He's a smart horse. He is. Yeah, he looks on Thursday. Won 3 miles. The time figure we got him doing was right up there with the very best we've seen either side of the Irish. So they went a good gallop that day. Like I say, Jax Jr. is improving hand over fist, and he set a really good tempo, almost a tempo that he couldn't keep up himself. So yeah, he was the pick of last week's action. I know you quite like Lagan Hill as well.
Yeah, well, a
Henry
friend
Daly's
of mine's. Yeah, a friend of mine's involved, and so I was, having won back to back, everyone on the penalty last weekend had done so very well. I was intrigued to hear from you whether the numbers stacked up with the eye test, and it sounds like maybe. So I'm trying to force their hand to go to Cheltenham, just for the day out, really, rather than anything else.
Yeah. He looks a nice prospect. Yeah, I mean Albert Bartlett maybe, I presume. Fingalbridge had a good number when he won at Exeter over the weekend and beat Regent Stroll. I quite fancied him to win that day, so it wasn't a great surprise that he won. But he also is Aintree bound. So, like I say, nice performances, but all the ones we mentioned there, more than likely to skip Cheltenham. So,
Andy, just so I can clip it up and send it on, Andy Holding's advice is to send Lagan Hill to the Cheltenham Festival. Correct.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's. I think the Albert Barley's up for grabs. I think anything can win it with a little bit of upside and the sort of profile like he's got. I think something could easily prove out of all recognition. I mean, we're going to cover a race this weekend, which is going to have a bearing, I think, towards the Albert Bartlett.
Joe, what have you seen over the last week or so that's gone into your Cheltenham notebook?
Yeah, there's been a couple of performances that have caught my eye a little bit, I suppose. I was really impressed with a horse yesterday who I've got a majority share in called Wendigo. Now, he did go and win at really short odds over 2 mile 3, but he's a horse that's seemingly improving for his races. He was second, obviously, in the Challow to the New Lion. We're not sure how well or badly that form's going to work out just yet, but he's a horse crying out for 3 miles, and he tends to be one that just seems to find. So we go there now with a live chance, and he's just one that's seemingly improving for the experience. There was a nice filly that ran at Naas on Saturday called Mercia. She's a 4-year-old by Dr. Dino. This was a 2 mile hurdle race, and she pulled clear with Bacchanalian. They were 8 lengths clear of the third. She actually came over to the Willie Mullins yards with the intention of being a Triumph hurdle horse. She was a little bit disappointed on her debut, but the last day was a really big step forward, and she'd been given an Irish mark of 133. So she's going to get a few extra pounds on there for British tax, of course, but I don't see that mark being beyond her when she goes for a race like the Boodles. I think the fact that she's dropping from the Triumph to take a tilt at the Boodles could be quite significant. She's a horse that seems to find things quite easy. She jumps well, she travels well. She doesn't do too much wrong, and I think the sort of race like a Boodles will suit her really nicely. Like I said, being a horse that was initially touted for a Triumph, I don't think that marks beyond her of 133. I think she'd have a nice chance, all things being well.
Interesting stuff. A couple there to stick in the notebook from Joe ahead of the festival, especially that Mullins horse with the Boodles. Looks like could be given a very lenient mark indeed. And best of luck with the horse you've got a majority share in as well, Joe. Let's get into the preview, and we're going to kick off with the Arkle, and it's good timing, I think, that we're covering the Arkle here, because a lot has happened in the Arkle since we last spoke. And Andy, you've spoken a lot about your respect for Sergino, and ahead of last weekend that we probably anticipated Sergino would go and win. Obviously, initially it seemed like the medical issue was just a one that was a more immediate issue, and it's kind of transpired in the last week or so that not only is Sergino's season over, but there are probably some doubts as to his career as well. And we've all got to cross our fingers and hope that whatever is going on, the situation improves rapidly. What this means is we have a whole new Arkle market where Madgeborough is now the 4-7 favourite with PricedUp. Loda Sud, who won last weekend in the Kingmaker, but by no means overly impressively, is now the second favourite at 4-1. Django Bay, who's a confirmed runner, Nicky Henderson confirming in the last 24 hours that Django Bay is being targeted for the Arkle, now 9-1. Ballyburn, who we don't expect to run here, is 10-1, only by the night 10-1. Touch Me Not 12-1, 14-1. Firefox, Gidley Park 16-1. Andy, what are your immediate reaction off the back of that seismic news for the festival, and what do you make of the reform market off the back of it?
collectively, I think it's a real bitter blow for the festival. It's a shame for the race. I think that would have been one of the highlights of certainly day one. We've got some real good clashes in store. Obviously, not forgetting the champion Hurdle Course Constitution Hill, perhaps up against Brighter Days Ahead and Lossiemouth. That's one race to talk about. And then we would have had the Arkle between Marlborough and Sergino, which, like I say, is a throwback to the Noddies rides and the Bobs lines of this world back in the 80s. Yeah, it's a real body blow because seeing those two good horses go hell for leather around 2 miles around Cheltenham would have been a sight to behold. Personally, it's kind of a bit of a dagger through the heart, really, because I was not far away from tipping and backing Marlborough myself. I think I did a podcast maybe a couple of weeks ago after the DRF. I can't remember if it was on this one or maybe the Racing Weekly one I did, suggesting they were just too far apart in the betting. I think it was 4-6 at the time, 11-4 top price Marlborough off the back of Marlborough's scintillating win, and the time figures that we've got didn't have them that far apart. And given that Marlborough had 1 or 2 little errors here then everywhere, he could have certainly improved upon what he achieved in Leopardstown. But now with Sergino out, he looks as though he's got dare I say, a free path to the winning line here if he can just keep on his feet. He's in that sort of Galopin de Champ category, isn't he, where opposition's a little bit thin on the ground, they're dropping like flies. People will look to take their horses elsewhere. You got likes of horses like Only by Night, who'll probably run in the mares, Ballyburn in the 3 miler. You've got entries in this, but they're only cursory, sort of like throwaway entries, token entries, aren't they? Well, you know damn well they're not going to go here. So I think it's probably not a bad race to have an anti-post bet in the sense there might be less than 8 runners on the day. So if you like the likes of Django Bay, Lotus Hood, or even Gidley Park, one I think could run well at a price, maybe now's the time to back those and at least lock in the 3 place terms rather than potentially only 2 on the day.
Are you surprised? And this is basically reflecting my own surprise because when the news came out about Sergino being out of the race, Andy, the exchange reacted very quickly. We saw Marlborough come in to kind of near off the kind of 1.58, 1.59 mark straight away, and that slowly eased as time has gone on, kind of going out now towards kind of 4 to 5-ish. I mean, it seems impossible to believe that Marlborough is going to go anywhere, it can run anywhere else if fit. So are you surprised to see him trading at that price rather than shorter, given how much the market Sergino's taken out?
I just think it was a knee-jerk reaction, wasn't it? Everyone's just lumped on and just took whatever they could. It was almost like the fastest finger first, wasn't it? And it just went crazy. But then actually, when it's all settled down, the dust settles down. Lotus Hood did what he did over the weekend. We've got Django Bay all of a sudden parachuting in from left field when we thought he was going to go up in trip, and the market sort of stabilised accordingly. I think he's probably trading around about the right price now, 4 to 6, 4 to 5, 4 to 6, as you say. But I don't think he's going to drift out to anything like even money on the day. I think he's only going to go one way. He's going to be tight all the way through between now and the festival.
Joe, how about you? How do you see this now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big blow, isn't it, for us? We've got 2 exceptional juveniles, and we were given a treat the fact that they were sent chasing as early in their careers as this. So it is a real big shame that we're not going to see the duel, especially when they took to fences so well. There were a lot of critics surrounding Marlborough's jumping at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I didn't necessarily agree with that. He did get in tight to a few of them, but I thought it was actually a really intelligent move by himself to put himself right and get himself from A to B. He never looked like falling to me whatsoever. And when he did meet the fences right and found the stride, he winged them 3 out and 4 out. He was superb at. He really was. I don't see what was. I don't think the critics were fair on Marlborough there. I think that sort of mentality for a 5-year-old could also be marked up. It's interesting what you're saying about the market reacting quite quick. I definitely think he's the right price at the moment, looking at the opposition down the field. I'd certainly probably rather be backing Marlborough to win the Arkle than I would Constitution Hill to win the Champion Hurdle at this stage at these sort of prices, because there's not a lot that I can see beating Marlborough on the in the current state of affairs. I know Lotus had won the Kingmaker at the weekend. Didn't really look like an Arkle winning performance to me, and I'd be a bit concerned that it looked to probably take quite a bit of effort for him to get the job done that day. I wouldn't have said that he had an easy ride, so he's going to have to be primed if he's going to push Marlborough at all for me on the day for the Arkle. I think Only by Night could be an interesting angle here. it's probably wise to back her non-runner no bet. If so, like Andy said, she may well be going down the mare's chase route. But she looks to me like an out-and-out 2-miler. And I think if they go fast in this race, she's one that's not going to mind that whatsoever and probably going to be staying on best. But the problem is when you're backing horses each way in races like this, unless you feel they've got a genuine chance of winning, you're almost throwing away half your stake straight away. So, look, I think it's difficult to oppose Majborough. He does look exceptional. I know the general consensus early in the season was that he was going to be a 3-miler, but I think everyone was just looking at his size and saying that he's a big stamp of a chase. But it doesn't always correlate. Obviously, you look at the likes of Tiger Roll, he was tiny, but he had no problem at the national fences and other scenarios like that. But he showed plenty of speed as well, Majborough, on debut. It's going to take an exceptional performance to beat him, and I want to see him go out there and get the job done. I'm just gutted, George, that we're not going to see the duel between Gino and Majborough here, to be honest.
Yeah, aren't we all? Fingers crossed for a swift recovery for Sir Gino, and we can see these two Lockhorns in the future. Only by night 10-1 currently, with PricedUp, tentative selection there from Joe. But as he says, whether or not only by night can go past the favourite, we'll have to see. And Gidley Park 16-1. Andy, would that be the one you'd be leaning on here for an each way play?
Yeah, he's up there with Marlborough with regards to times. I think we got 75 Marlborough, 76 Gidley Park. I mean, he absolutely was let rip, didn't he, at Windsor? I know he only beat 3 opponents, but they're all good. Obviously, he put Colwell Potter in his place readily. But I always look back to the 3rd and 4th, Personal Ambition and You Wear It Well. I mean, 2 quality horses. They're probably grade 3 listed horses, those 2, and they were tailed off. And You Wear It Well might have won the other day at Warwick. Actually stood on her feet, so the form's already taken a little bit of a boost. Admittedly, a little bit spuriously over hurdles, but I do like Gidley Park. He's top class, and that pull up at obviously Kempton when he was all wrong was a bit of a red herring. And looks as though Harry Fry's got to the bottom of him, and in a small field where he's going to be up with the speed from the word go. His jumping was really good at Windsor, so I certainly think he's been slightly overlooked at his current price.
Could I just ask Andy regarding the speed figures? How did Only by Night fare with her last couple of runs? Is she anywhere near sort of the top end for you?
I think we've got her mid to top 60s.
Okay.
She hasn't run a number over 70, which is usually the benchmark for championship times.
Right, okay.
George will know that the numbers, and regulars will know anything upwards of 70 or touching 75, particularly for novices, is very good. The very best ones do 80s, like Galopin de Champ and Bright Days Ahead, Constitution Hills. Those are the real creme de la creme horses. But novices, 70s usually the line in the sand. She hasn't been over that yet. All the other market leaders have. Marlborough, Allo de Sud, Django Bay, Touch Me Not, Gidley Park, Coolwell Potter. They've all done a 70 or over. She's funny enough. She's the only one who hasn't actually achieved that feat at the moment.
The eyes versus the stopwatch here. We'll see how it goes on day one of the festival. On next then to the. Actually, I was going to say, Andy, just quickly, you mentioned Loda Sud there had done a time over 70 as well. I mean, as Joe says, the performance on Saturday didn't scream Arkle winner. And if we are going to respect Madborough at the top of the market, could it be a case of waiting to the day if we're happy to take on Loda Sud at the top for without the favourite market in order to back Gidley Park?
Yeah, I mean, the things with Loda Sud, I think he's better when he's ridden like he was the other day. He seemed to be very happy out there jumping and popping away. He's getting a bit tired late on. Perhaps they went a little bit harder than what they thought. But look, he's gone around Cheltenham as well. I think that's one thing we need to flag up. Most of the horses in the field haven't been around Cheltenham over fences. He has. He's got that in the bag. So he doesn't want to necessarily be too underestimated. But what will they do? They'll have to probably sit in behind Marlborough and take their medicine early. It's going to be a fascinating race to watch and figure out tactically, isn't it? And we're still 4 weeks away before we know the full field. But yeah, he's like I say, he's up there on the numbers. He's not too far off. I just don't think he's quite a proper Grade 1 horse like Masbury is potentially. Well, he's definitely already.
Well, let's move on to the Brown Advisory now, where with PricedUp 7-4 favourite is Ballyburn, Dancing City 3-1, Better Days Ahead 9-1, Croke Park 10-1, Lecky Watson 12-1, Stella Story 14-1, Django Bay 16s, Keda Bourbon 16s 20-1, bar those. Now, Andy, you've spoken a lot and in depth on this series already about Ballyburn. nailed your colours to the mast there. Joe, are you of similar position with regards to the favourite?
I am. I've got two sort of fancies at this stage. Ballyburn has to be one. Again, I think a lot of people are being rather critical about his jumping. Okay, he may look like he's slightly on the slow side with regards to his jumping, but you can't doubt his engine. And I think just when they go up to 3 miles, it's only going to suit him further. I think even if it turns into a little bit of a sprint, he has got a lot of speed, Ballyburn, hence the attempt at 2 miles in the Wayward Lad initially. He's surely going to be hard to beat. One I can't have is Dancing City for me. He doesn't seem very tactically versatile. I'd see no problem with Ballyburn picking him off at the straight at Cheltenham, and I actually think Dancing City would be a lot better on flatter tracks as well. Of course, he did well at the end of the season, Dancing City. But the interesting runner here for me has to be Better Days Ahead. I've been a big fan of this horse for a long time. He reminds me of your real old school, proper national hunt steeplechaser that's just going to thrive with a trip. He was okay as a bumper horse. He seemingly progressed as a hurdler and then showed his best form at Cheltenham, where he just relished that hill. I haven't been disappointed with his form this year. Of course, he started off at Navan by beating Slade Steele. He was then second to Croke Park on a flatter surface. And he then obviously only just got the better of Stella Story the last day. But I wouldn't be too concerned by the winning distance there at all. I think he just got a little bit lonely out in front. I think this is a horse that's going to sit off the pace when we get to Cheltenham. He's just going to thrive again when we get to Cheltenham. He really is a horse that's going places. And I think we are sometimes too critical of looking at horses that if they're not winning on the bridle or not winning by 10 lengths, they're not a good horse. I think all season long I've been saying when we get to Cheltenham, that is when we'll see the best of Better Days Ahead. And I think he's going to thrive over 3 miles. I really do. But it's certainly between him and Ballyburn for me at this point in time anyway.
So, Andy, we know you're a fan of Ballyburn at 7-4. Joe, they're kind of giving us a negative for Dancing City and a positive for Better Days Ahead. What are your views on those two?
Yeah, we've got Ballyburn basically way ahead of Dancing City and Better Days Ahead on the data that we've got. He just looks a totally different model to the other two based on our times. His performances over hurdles were far better than Dancing City and Better Days Ahead, and that's been equated to their performances over fences as well. We haven't got Dancing City doing anything of any great note. He's been workmanlike rather than spectacular. Better Days Ahead did a good number at Leopardstown 2 starts ago, so he's definitely in the equation based on times. But Ballyburn's defeat of Sergino was good on the clock. He was good last time when he beat Croke Park. I love the way he powered away from Croke Park, having looked momentarily in a little bit of a trouble going down to the last. But as soon as he met the hill and sort of stamina kicked in, he put 10 lengths between himself and a good horse who's already proven already early in the early part of the season. Good horses like Champ Kiley and Impade Pass were well and truly in his wake. I think he's going to get better the further he goes. And, they are thinking he's a Gold Cup horse, so they're quite right to pursue this route and run him over 3 miles. And I think he's tailor-made for the race. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Ballyburn. It's just whether he can just put it all together at Cheltenham, which, touch wood, he will.
Anything else at a bigger price, guys, before we move on? Ballyburn, obviously, the kind of headline selection, 7-4, and Andy very strong on that. Better Days Ahead, give it a positive mention. But anything, you mentioned Croke Park, who got the better of Better Days Ahead at Leopardstown on Boxing Day. Lecky Watson, another one with quality. Can we make case for any of these, or is it just those two?
I think Croke Park and Dancing City are very much in a similar mould, but one that might be interesting now since Django Bay has been rerouted to the Arkle is Jinko Blue. He's obviously running this weekend over 3 miles. That would almost give you a little bit of support and positivity regarding his chances this weekend, that they obviously feel Django Bay's quick enough to take his chances in the Arkle, and that they must have a decent enough prospect to run themselves in the Browns as well. So he's probably going to be quite a big price, Jinko Blue, but he might be a little bit shorter after this weekend without giving too much away. I do think he's going to have a solid chance this weekend. I don't think they'd be rerouting the pair if they didn't think they had some sort of chance of at least reaching the frame. So he could be some sort of each angle. But like Andy said, Ballyburn's going to be very tough to beat. And I like Better Days Ahead. I think these are the top two. But Jinko Blue, certainly interesting, I think, George.
It's interesting there, just before we move on, George, about Jinko Blue and Lowry's Bar. Lowry's Bar's another one who's languishing in the sort of 50-1 bar category. There's not a massive amount between them on the Windsor form, and there's not a massive amount between them in the betting for the Reynoldstown. I think the Reynoldstown is going to be a key guide of sorts to where they end up going at Cheltenham, whether Lowry's Bar, let's say, gets beat, goes down the handicap route, or whether they have a crack at the 3 mile, or depends on what happens in the Reynolds. But I actually think he probably would have beaten Django Blue. Jinko Blue, sorry, at Windsor. He made a terrible mistake at the third last when he looked arguably going as well, if not better, than the favourite, and that definitely was the key to winning and losing. And he was keeping on well at the finish despite that mistake. So I mean, he's 66-1 in places, Lowry's Bar.
40-1. 40-1 with PricedUp. Lowry's Bar 20-1. Jinko Blue for the race. I mean, we were going to do it later, but we might as well. Because I don't know the business, but given we're talking about the horses now, we might as well do the Reynolds Town kind of as we speak, because rather than coming back to it, given given we're talking about the protagonists at this stage, it's the 150 at Ascot on Saturday. Jinko Blue currently the 5-4 favourite ahead of Lowry's Bar is actually 2-1. The Changing Man 7-1, Peaky Boy 8-1, Leave of Absence 28-1. So Andy, would you be with Lowry's Boy here? Yeah,
I've actually had one anti-post bet. Yeah, Lowry's Bar. I've had actually one anti-post bet for this weekend, and Lowry's Bar is it. Had a feeling this race had cut up. Henderson had 2 in it. There was a couple of trainers as well, also had 2 in it as well. So you knew that the likes of Highland were going to go by the wayside. So it was quite a good race to have a bet in anti-post, knowing that you're going to beat the book by 1.5 or something like that. Like I say, I think Lowry's Bar, without reiterating it too much, would have given Jinko Blue plenty to think about had he not made that mistake throughout. I mean, it was a race-ending mistake. He literally rooted it, and he could have easily just dropped out the back of the telly, really. But he kept on really well, and he got a couple of lengths. And at the time, he got Jinko Blue at the pin of his collar. So I don't get the disparity with their 2 respective prices over the weekend. 5-4 against 2-1. I'd be more 6-4 each of 2 there. I presume he'll lead. Lowry's Bar, he goes really well right-handed. He won at Exeter well. He ties in with Jaguar as well early on in the season. And he beats 2 older horses at Chepstow the time before in a fast time, which has worked out well. I think the third horse, Lamilos, won last weekend for the Skelton stable, and he absolutely battered him. So, like I say, I think the market's got this wrong. I'd be very much into Lowry's Bar.
Joe, how do you see it? Given your comment on Jinko Blue, but Andy's kind of come in and taking you on. Have you got are you kind of sticking by the favourite here?
I am. And I totally appreciate what Andy's saying there about Lowry's Bar. He did, like he said, make a real race-ending mistake. I've just got a feeling there's a little bit more to come from Jinko Blue. Again, this is possibly one for the eye test, and I think the fact that the money's come for him as well may just be significant here. I don't think Lowry's Bar is going to be too far behind him. But again, that the fact that the Henderson team are willing to send Django Bay to the Arkle instead, and then potentially reroute Jinko Blue to the Browns, is speaking volumes to me personally. But like Andy said, the market probably isn't quite right. He opened up around 7-4 Jinko Blue, and I thought that was he was a backable price. But at 5-4, it is starting to look a little bit skinny at the same time. I think the Changing Man's, he's a very frustrating horse for anyone that's followed him. His form in the Silver Cup when he was second to Victorino definitely gives him a chance here, but the problem with him is that he is slowly creeping up the weights despite not being able to get his nose in front. But I do feel he is a horse that's going to get his nose in front sooner or later. I just don't think it's going to be this weekend, and I do believe that Jinko Blue is going to progress the most here and take the world to beat him. There is a £5 swing there as well, though, that does lean in Lowry's Bar's favour. But I just got a sneaky feeling, George, that there's a little bit more to come from Jinko Blue, and I think he's the one that could turn into a Grade 1 operator out of this field.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We'll come back to some more of this weekend's racing, but it made sense to cover that one off there. The 2 guys taking each other on, who will get first blood come Saturday. The final race we're going to cover, looking at to the Cheltenham Festival, is the Mares Novice, where 6.5 is 3-1 favourite ahead of Marine at 130. Caroline Bamboo 7-1, Galileo Dame 9-1, Jubilee Alpha 10-1, 12-1 Aurora Vega, Just a Rose 12-1, 16-1 bar those. Again, Joe, I'll come to you first because Andy's had his say on this once or twice already on the series. Who do you fancy here?
Big fan of 6.5 here, George. I've been on her for some time now since she won her hurdles debut at Ferryhouse. I just really like the fact that she's got a lot of experience too. She started off her sort of career with 2 runs and bumpers. She finished second behind Familiar Dreams on debut, but then she hammered Cole Cannon by 11 lengths, who actually won the Geldings bumper at the Dublin Racing Festival in good style. Now, I know that was a little while ago, but the fact that she was able to put him to bed plenty easy was really impressive to me. She then went for a stint on the flat. She sort of had 6 runs there. She won over 1 mile 4. She won over 1 mile 6. And then she finished third in the Irish Chazarowicz, just a length and a half behind the Euphrates. But she had plenty of good horses in behind her that day. And she seemingly improved again for the switch to hurdles. I like the fact that she's got pace. She travels. She jumps well. For me, she's the real box ticker in the race. And considering she's got 9 runs under her belt and Maureen's only got 2, and she's probably clearly a little bit fragile too at the same time, I don't think there's many of the English protagonists that are going to be able to put in the level of form that 6.5 is. I think she's one of the bets of the festival. I am on at bigger prices, but I still wouldn't put anyone off backing her at 3-1. I think she's going to be extremely hard to beat. I really do.
Without blowing your own trumpet, I'll blow it for you. What price are you on at?
9-1, but I was a bit smart and got on the day before she ran at Ferryhouse, so I wouldn't say it was too shrewd at the same time, you know.
Lovely stuff. All in there on the favourite there, 6.5. And Andy, we've heard from you previously that you're not hugely taken by Maheen. So how do you see this at the current prices?
Yeah, it's funny because I put Maheen up as one of my horses to follow for this season when I did Colin for oddschecker back in, I think it was October, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by her effort first time out at Punchestown. I mean, it's first run of the season. You know what Willie's like. You'd never really want to take the first run on trust. It's very much a stepping stone, a building block, isn't it, for the rest of the season? But the number that she did that day was nowhere near the level that you'd expect a potential Grade 1 winning Cheltenham horse, whereas 6.5 did a really excellent time figure when she kicked into touch 2 fairly useful horses that day, as Joe mentioned, at Ferryhouse. The thing I like about it at Ferryhouse was how slick she was over her hurdles, particularly 2 out in the last when she met it on the stride and just got from one side or the other to the very, very quickly. That'll stand her in good stead at Cheltenham, even though technically she's a little bit inexperienced. But that seems to be the lie of the land, isn't it? Most of the horses we're talking about here have only had 1 or 2 runs over hurdles anyway. Interesting that Paul Nicholls has got, beyond the front 2 in the market, he's got a couple of horses here. Jubilee Alpha would seemingly be the best of them on paper, having won a listed race at Taunton last time out and was a bit unlucky not to win at Newbury. But I've got a sneaky feeling that Just a Rose could be a little bit of a Johnny-come-lately here. She's due to run, I think, over the weekend, maybe Ascot. I think it could be Wincanton. And she clocked a very good time for a race of its kind when she won first time out. Looked very, very impressive at Taunton, won by 26 lengths. And normally you wouldn't take a look at that and think, well, that's Cheltenham Festival form. But the time figure was eye-poppingly good. So I've got a sneaky feeling she could throw a cap into the ring come Saturday with another good victory.
Yeah, interesting. Run in the 4:10 at Ascot on Saturday.
Ascot, that's it. Yeah. I'd imagine she'd be favourite to win that. I would have thought.
Oh, already been declared a non-runner, so not running on Saturday.
Yeah, I saw it entered up. Yeah, I don't know why that's it's a shame she's a non-runner because that would have been quite nice. Nice to see. Like I say, the level of how she's progressed from one run to the next.
Yeah, has she got any other entries?
No, that was the only one.
And also last week, Liam made a case for Galileo Dame. Here, can you see that the angle there?
Sort of. She jumped poorly first time out when got beat by Wendrock. I felt she should have won that day. She was in front. I thought, oh yeah, she's a quality horse on the flat. She'll put these to bed, and she kind of squandered it by 1 or 2 sloppy jumps here, then everywhere, a bit slow at the last, and Wendrock ended up sort of doing on the run in, and she was involved in that spring juvenile hurdle last time out at Leopardstown, and I've gone on about that form. I just don't think it's good enough. The time was poor. They finished in a heap. I don't mind the winner, Hello Neighbour, but I thought the rest of them behind were a bit of a shower, to be honest. So yeah, I'll be surprised if Galileo Dame was good enough to win a mare's race.
Respectfully done. Well done. And Joe, any other that stand out here for people to stick in their notebook?
I don't, to be honest, George. I really do think this is all about 6.5. And just to sort of back up what Andy said, like the forms worked out really nicely too. When she beat Qualamita, she was an extremely expensive purchase from the point-to-point yard. She's going to be some chaser in time. Now, she then went up and backed up that by finishing third to Vicio at the DRF. And on the same day, that 6.5 won on her hurdles debut. She beat a horse called Kimi Demai as well, who came into the race with form of Calistoire after winning 3 races in France. So she ticks every single box, and sometimes that's almost dangerous, to be honest with you. Because, you're trying to find a chink in the armor, but she really does look bomb-proof to me. I'm willing to put my neck on the line for her at this stage anyway.
Good stuff. Well, those are our 3 races we're going to cover. We'll be back again next week to do similar with a few more. I think next week we're looking at the Champion Hurdle, the Stayers, and a couple of others. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We've already covered off a couple. Well, one race that's coming up on Saturday in the Reynoldstown. But we'll now have a look at the where should we go? Have a look at the Kingwell first. Right, looking ahead to the Kingwell Hurdle now at Wincanton, the 136 on Saturday, and Burdett Road is the 4-6 favourite with PricedUp. The top price in the market on the next 2, Golden Ace and Brentford Hope, and Hansard as well. 11-4 Golden Ace, Brentford Hope 11-2, Hansard 12-1. So Andy, the guys at PricedUp taking a strong view that the favourite's a good thing here. Do you agree?
I think they've probably on balance just about got it right. I looked at this race in midweek and I thought, is there any value to be had with the likes of Golden Ace and Brentford Hope? And I come to the conclusion, looking at the data that we've got, the kind of race this will develop into, that Burdett Road will probably much dominate and boss it from the front, like he did when he won the hurdle race, the Great Wood. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, the Great Wood at Cheltenham. Show me age now. Can't remember what won yesterday, let alone what won in November. Yeah, I mean, it was a superb performance in the Great Wood. So much so that Burdett Road took on Constitution Hill in the Christmas Hurdle, and I thought he ran respectively. He come out of that race with his best ever time figure, even though he got beat 9 lengths. So it was a big improvement from last year as a juvenile when he was running time figures that we got in the mid-60s, which didn't equate to a great deal. To all of a sudden run a 72 in the Great Wood and then a 76 that we got him doing when he finished third at Kempton. We haven't got Golden Ace running anything like that kind of time, nor Brentford Hope for that matter. So it'll just all about be whether Sam Twiston-Davies gets the fractions right here on James Owen's charge. This, to all intents and purposes, all 3 of theirs respectively, they're champion hurdle, isn't it? Golden Ace, trying to get her to stretch out for 2.5 miles if she goes down the Cheltenham Festival route might be tricky, and the ground's very much swinging back into her favour. She wants proper good spring ground, which she might get close to over the weekend. So that they're all going to be all guns blazing, both of those 2, Brentford Hope and Golden Ace, up against Burdett Road. But I just think Burdett Road will have too much speed for them around this track. That'd be the way I'd see it.
Yeah, 4-6 Burdett Road as it stands with PricedUp. I think it would have been backed after the market reforms earlier today. Joe, how do you see it?
Yeah, very very similar to Andy, actually. Probably different calculations, but we've come up with the same outcome, I believe. Burdett Road's a very, very speedy horse. Something I did notice about Burdett Road, because he's by Muhara, who typically doesn't breed the best jumpers physically of hurdles, but the faster the ground, the better Burdett Road seems to jump, and he has looked to me like a progressive horse this year. I echo what Andy said about his run in the Christmas Hurdle. I thought he was brilliant. He made a real bad error sort of late on, and he still didn't finish too far back at all. I think he's just going to prove too good. I think Golden Ace's credentials have been exposed this year. She's a horse I really liked last year. She was a very straightforward mare, travelled, jumped well, and ultimately that's what won her the Mare's Novice ahead of Brighter Days Ahead and Jade de Grugy and a few others. But she's looked a little bit of a tricky customer to me this year. She ran okay at Ascot. She ran okay at Cheltenham. I've just got a feeling that we found her level now. And ultimately, I just think, like Andy said, Burdett Road's going to go off and set the pace here and probably prove too quick at the start, mid-race, and the finish. She's going to be really hard to catch with the ground drying out as well.
I think one of the main reasons as well why Golden Ace, in all fairness, has been slightly below par, and I agree with you there, Joe, is the yard have been a bit underwhelming. They've been very quiet, and I've listened to Jeremy Scott in a few interviews when he's been asked about Golden Ace, and he just said we haven't quite seen her come to herself yet. She hasn't been quite there. She's been showing the same kind of over home, but since the turn of the new year, she's really started to thrive. So yeah, expect her to sort of run a little bit closer to her best over the weekend.
She's definitely dangerous to underestimate, isn't she? I suppose it's just the ultimate speed angle, perhaps, that we're relying on. I guess then with Burdett Road.
Is there any angle? Just I'm thinking out loud here. Given that currently, if you look at the mares hurdle market, Brighter Days Ahead is 4-6 favourite, Lossiemouth 5-2. But if you look at the exchange, both trading well over that number currently, especially Brighter Days Ahead is trading over 2-1, which might suggest that the plan is actually to take on Constitution off the Champion Hurdle. Given Golden Ace's run last year, if you do fancy Golden Ace for this test on Saturday, do you take the 12-1 now for the mares, given what we're seeing at the top end of the market on the exchanges?
I wouldn't personally, to be honest, George. I'm not totally convinced that 2 mile 4 suits her credentials as well. I do think she's sort of an out-and-out 2 miler. That would possibly be my concern. I am of the opinion that Brighter Days Ahead and Lossiemouth will both turn up in the Champion Hurdle, but I still think the likes of July Flower, even Jatara, Carla Conti, I think there's a lot better mares in the field than Golden Ace for me. So I wouldn't want to take that price. Certainly not this time. But I suppose if you do, non-runner no bet might be the option. I'd say before we see what happens at the weekend.
I should say a price up not currently non-runner no bet, but we will update as and when they do go there. Andy, do you see the I mean, we'll talk about the mares in detail actually next week, but do you go with that?
No, she wouldn't make that much appeal to me at this very moment in time. At that price, I want to be getting involved in a race like that, non-runner no bet, because it just all surrounds what's going to happen with Brighter Days Ahead and Lossiemouth. I'm just hopeful, and the vibes are very much heading that way, that we could end up with both of those two horses in the Champion Hurdle. I mean, at the end of the day, who gives a monkeys who wins this? If you've got a horse like Brighter Days Ahead, I mean, she's not going to be remembered as a top class quality mare that they think she is by winning a mare's hurdle. I mean, it's great and well done, and she gets a huge round of applause coming in and puts the sash on her and all that kind of stuff. But does Michael O'Leary really? Is he that desperate to win another race at the festival, whereas go for the ultimate glory and find out how good your horse really is? That's what competition's all about. I'd be disappointed if the likes of him and Rich Ritchie decide to sort of backtrack and like I say, take the easy route out. And Constitution Hill, we're still not absolutely 100% convinced whether he can keep going back to back like he has been. So if ever he's worth taking on, it's probably now.
We don't want 4 odds on shots on the opening day as well, do we? It wouldn't be great for the outside public coming into the sport thinking. It
wasn't that far off it for Ruby Tuesday, was it? I mean, what were the SPs there?
I personally get it if you've got owners that are in a once in a lifetime situation.
Yes.
Let's say they, it's owned by a syndicate bunch of guys or a small owner, and this is day to have a Cheltenham Festival winner up in lights. You'd say, well, fair play, go for the easy option, give yourself the Cheltenham Festival winner you deserve that you've craved all your life. Guys like Rich Ritchie and Michael O'Leary, they've done it all their life. They know what Grand Nationals, winning Grand Nationals and Champion Hurdles and all these big races are. So they've experienced that. So I don't get what winning one more is of any great benefit, whereas they'll never get another chance to have a Champion Hurdler winner like Brighter Days Ahead. And why not run her now while her stock is high and she's in the form of her absolute life? She beat Mike Stateman 30 wickets last time out. So you can't get going into a race in any better form. And just getting the vibes of Gordon Elek with these interviews and Willie Mullins, they're very much still quite happy to roll the dice.
She deserves Sorry, George.
I was going to say there's winning a Champion Hurdle and there's winning this Champion Hurdle. Where if you go and you beat Constitution Hill, then it's probably
you're in the pantheon of the greats if you beat Constitution Hill. Whereas Brighter Days Ahead beats Take No Chances and Car Guess and Golden Ace. I mean, what we do kind of thing,
Right, we've got to get through 3 more races before we let you guys go. We've got the Ascot Chase, the 3:37 at Ascot on Saturday. Pictorhi, the 2-1 favourite. Corbett's Cross, who is currently 4th favourite for the Gold Cup, 12-1. Obviously running over a shorter trip here, just over 2.5 miles, 5-2. So 9-4. Corbett's Cross is Long Press is 2-1. Le Patron 11-1. Blue Lord 20-1. Phlegmatic 100-1. Joe, how do you see this newly reformed market, kind of a 3-way match at the top end?
Sure, yeah, this is certainly not a betting race for me, this one, George, but it's certainly one that I am looking forward to watching. It's a carbon copy of what we talk about with Pictory all the time. It's a right-handed flat track that he just really relishes. I know he beat Lompresse in the race last year, and he's probably going to do it again, to be honest with you. But I'm slightly concerned with the campaign that Lompresse's had. He ran at Kempton, he then ran in the Cotswold Chase. He's going to run this weekend. He's then going to go to Cheltenham, and then he's going to go to Aintree. I feel like he's been given a real hard time this year, and I'm still baffled by the fact that they didn't give him a Ryanair entry. I think he'd have a great chance going off in front in the Ryanair. Corbett's Cross, I think he needs further now. So look, it's definitely not a betting perspective for me, this race, but I certainly am intrigued to watch it nonetheless.
Does it feel like this is a bit of a prep run for Corbett's Cross ahead of March? In which case, with him taking up quite a lot of the market at 9-4, does that not open doors maybe if you do fancy either Lompresse or Pictorhi?
It does. It might be the fact that people are looking at the Irish angle coming over for the race. It does tend to sort of sway some of the markets now. And although he's probably not going to have the best chance in the Gold Cup, he's certainly going to be staying on as one of the best at the end of the race. But yeah, this is a tough race. It's a tough race from a betting angle for me. I think unless you're really sweet on one, you just sit back and enjoy it for what it is. But look, hopefully Pictory goes and gets it done. This is his Gold Cup, isn't it, really?
Andy?
Yeah, I'd be more inclined to think it is a little bit more of a betting race than Joe because of the reasons he's outlined. He kind of teed me up here, really, because like Pictory's got one race, really, as his main target all season. This is it. He's not going to go and win a Grade 1 at Cheltenham because he's better off going right-handed. He doesn't like going up the hill, down dale too much. But this track very much plays into his strengths, and Paul Nicholls knows that. So if ever a horse has been trained for one race specifically here amongst this field, it's him. So if you are taking sort of 15 away 2-1, you know you're going to be on a horse that's all guns blazing. Whereas you think Lompresse, he got beat readily last year by Pictory. Where's he going to find, the extra sort of boost he needs over 2.5 miles to win? Where's Corbett's Cross going to find the speed from? He won the 4 miler last year, well, the 3 mile sixer as it is, and now the National Chase at the Cheltenham Festival, and he's got targets over 3 miles this season. So, they're only half a point chalked up behind this Pictory, and he's going to get an uncontested lead. Phlegmatic won't be pressing for the lead. Le Patron nor Blue Law, these are horses that don't go from the front. So by halfway, I'd suggest you're going to be trading fairly short Pictory here. So it's not a bad angle actually to take the 2-1, and perhaps if you're like I say a trader in running, get short shot of him for a small profit in running. Either that, if you're just quite bold, just take the 2-1 and hope that he hangs on like he did last year. He was really good the first day. So yeah, the only negative I could see was with the form of the yard. They've had 5 winners out of the last 56, and a few short ones have got beat, albeit they haven't run too badly in defeat. But there's still a little bit of a cloud hanging over them. Whereas, if they were all guns blazing, I'd suggest this would be a 9 out of 10 bet.
Pictorhi 15-8 priced up as it stands right now. The selection for Andy. Then we've got the Rendlesham Hurdle over at Haydon, the 240. Beauport is the 15-8 favourite ahead of Botox Has at 7-2. Thunder Rock at 11-2. Nemean Line also 11-2. Sounds Russian 7-1. Gwenny May Boy 12-1. Indiana Dream 16s. Kerry Hill 25-1. Andy, any play here for you?
Yeah, I think Botox House is probably the percentage call, I would suggest. He's run behind the Twist and Davis horse at Cheltenham in the Cleve was a good run. It was certainly a run to suggest that he's coming back to form behind Gower Road, who's just a brilliant horse around Cheltenham. He had strong leader back in fourth, who prior to flopping in the long walk was probably the preeminent 3 miler over here at this side of the Irish Sea. Boatport's working his way through the ranks, but I think he's arguably better going right-handed. He just tends to shift out to his right a little bit over hurdles and over fences. So I think he's a vulnerable favourite. Thunder Rock, he's probably better known for his chasing exploits. Not sure about the main line over the trip. Sounds Russian. I think was well beaten in this race last year. And Botox has absolutely ripped this field apart last year. More to the point, that Gary Moore and Josh Moore's horses are now in really good order. They've taken a while to click into gear, but they're coming into this race with Botox horse with a yard firing on all cylinders, as far as I could see. I think they've had 3 or 4 winners this week alone. So at what top price, around about the 7-2 mark, I could see that price well and truly being put under pressure come Saturday.
Botox has for Andy 7-2 priced up as it stands right now. Joe, how do you see this?
Very similar to Andy here. Yeah, I do. I think Beauport's definitely vulnerable at the prices. I could see why you'd want to back him each way at 5-6-1, but sort of 15-8 or whatever he sort of is trading at currently just does seem a little bit on the short side. He's not exactly tactically versatile either, so I think he'd need everything to go to plan if you're going to be backing him. But similar to Andy, I think Botox has this could well be the time to catch him. He has already mentioned, obviously, the yard are in really good form, and we know he's capable of winning these sort of races. We've seen it before. He's the proven graded animal, really, in the race. And he is a horse that tends to come right once or twice a year when he's primed. And with that run behind him recently, look, I just think now's probably the time to catch him. He's the classiest horse of the race, obviously, hence he's at the top of the numbers here. But yeah, I'd take my chance here with Botox has. I am interested in the Nemean Lion at this sort of trip because I think he is a horse that just continues to find. But I would give the edge to Botox has on these terms, yes.
The guys in agreement there for Botox has. And a quick mention of the 315 at Haydon, which is the oddschecker Grand National Trial and Handicap Chase. Oddschecker sponsoring the race. Putting you guys on the spot a little bit here because I didn't put it in the script. But I'll run through the market, and if you guys have got anything to add, then feel free to. Jubilee Express is the 5-1 favourite. Yeah Man 11-2 alongside Val Dancer, 13-2 Gitmaker, Royal Pagai 15-2, Famous Bridge 8-1, 10-1 Gallia Delito, 14-1 Bar. Andy, you're used to me throwing stuff at you without preparing you in advance. I'll come to you first here. Anything you like?
Yeah, I'd had a look at this race in the week. I always like to look at the sort of Saturday races, see if there's a bit of value to be had. I haven't had a bet in it yet, and pretty much the prices are as they were in midweek. So it still looks a wide open contest. But I thought the bottom one, Jubilee Express, has got to be shortlist material. He ran a blinder, didn't he, in the Welsh National behind Val Dance? Of course, he reposes. Sure to be all the better for the run. These are the kind of events that suit him. Sort of 3.5 miles on softish ground. It is drying out at Haydon, albeit I think there's a bit of rain forecast over Friday into Saturday. And he's a course and distance winner. I think he's only one of 2 course and distance winners in the field when he won here back in March. I think Yearman's the only other one. So with the yard having a good season, and I think he's due to run off sort of 10 stone with Dylan Johnson still claiming he's 3. I thought he'd be an interesting proposition, around about 5-1.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. 5-1. Joe, anything you like here?
I have had a look again, struggling for a few sort of betting angles this weekend, but there's a few that I wouldn't be having, that's for sure. And that's Galliard, Dilato, and Apples Away. I tend to find it hard backing these mares against the Gowdens when they come over these sort of long staying trips. I just don't feel they get enough of an allowance, and it sort of proves with the results. Gitmaker's a horse I do really like. I actually quite fancied him for Cheltenham, but the fact he's coming here may look like this is more of a prep for him for Aintree rather than Cheltenham. So perhaps I'd look at Famous Bridge. He was a beaten favourite last time out, but I still think he's quite well handicapped, and he's surely going to stay this trip no problem as well. He's actually won at this course too, which is obviously going to be quite the bonus. But from a betting perspective right now, George, nothing stand out. But if I was forced for one, I would take a look at Famous Bridge each way at 9-10-1.
Great stuff. Yeah, Famous Bridge best price in the market 8-1, and that has been priced up as it stands right now. Thank you very much to Joe and to Andy for sharing their tips, thoughts, and insight. Looking back, looking ahead, and looking at this weekend too, all with that Cheltenham lens. Not long to go at all. Only 3 more episodes of the Cheltenham Roar left. We're going to cover off the rest of the races we haven't looked at yet. We've got the championship hurdle races, the championship chases, and then we'll have in the final episode, we're looking ahead to the handicaps too. So loads more to get through. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Sign up to PricedUp if you haven't already got an account. You can find a link in the description below. Plenty of boosts up on there. They'll be boosting some of these selections today. Just have a look on site under boost and you'll find them there for you. And we'll be doing so ahead of the festival too. Check out oddschecker for all of your fixed odds betting needs, best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and plenty more up on site too, especially Andy and Joe's tips, which you can find on the app and on site as well. But in the meantime, enjoy the racing. Hopefully a couple of winners in there from the lads. We'll be back soon, and please ensure you're gambling responsibly.